A man dies in police custody. His body bears the unmistakable marks of torture, but here's the twist that will make your blood run cold. He wasn't even the suspect. He was just the brother of someone accused of killing a 2-year-old girl whose body has never been found. This is the story of Danka Ilić, a case that would shake an entire nation and expose the dark underbelly of Serbian law enforcement. March 26, 2024, Banjsko Polje, a quiet village near Bor, Serbia. 23-month-old Danka Ilić is enjoying a simple afternoon walk with her mother, Ivana. The sun is shining, and like any typical day, a mother and daughter are spending precious time together. But at exactly 1:45 p.m., everything changes. In a matter of seconds, Ivana loses sight of her daughter. Just like that, Danka vanishes. What happens next makes this case unlike anything Serbia has ever seen. For the first time in the country's history, the Find Me system is activated. This emergency alert platform, designed specifically for missing children, sends notifications across the entire nation. Television screens flash with Danka's photograph. Radio stations interrupt their programming. The entire country stops what they're doing to search for one little girl. But here's where the story takes its first dark turn. As search teams scour the countryside and volunteers knock on every door, something strange happens. A video surfaces from Vienna, Austria. The footage shows a small girl who bears a striking resemblance to Danka, accompanied by 2 unknown women at a tram station. The family watches this video and makes a statement that sends chills down everyone's spine. They believe with high probability that the child in the video is their missing Danka. Austrian police immediately launch their own investigation. An Interpol yellow notice is issued. The case has now crossed international borders, and suddenly, what started as a local disappearance has captured the attention of multiple countries. For 10 agonizing days, Serbia holds its breath. Every news bulletin brings hope, then disappointment. Every phone call could be the breakthrough everyone is praying for. Then comes April 4th, 2024. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić appears at a government session with news that no one wants to hear. Danka Ilić is dead. 2 men have been arrested for her murder. The entire nation that had been united in hope suddenly finds itself united in grief and outrage. The suspects are Dejan Dragicevic and Srđan Jankovic, both 50 years old and both employees of the local water company, Vodovod. According to authorities, these 2 men have confessed to a crime so heinous that it defies comprehension. The official story goes like this. Danka ran from her family's yard into the street. The 2 men driving their company vehicle struck her with their car. But instead of stopping to help, instead of calling for medical assistance, they made a decision that would haunt an entire country. They put the injured child in their trunk and drove to a nearby landfill. Here's what makes this confession even more disturbing. According to the initial statements, Danka was still alive when they put her in that trunk. The men claim they then killed her and disposed of her body for 10 days while an entire nation searched desperately for this little girl, while volunteers worked around the clock, while families checked every corner of their properties. Danka's body was allegedly somewhere in a landfill. But this is where the case begins to unravel in ways that no one could have predicted. Both men initially provide detailed confessions to police. They describe exactly how the crime occurred. They even lead investigators to various locations where they claim the events took place. Law enforcement officials are confident they have solved the case. The Minister of Interior at the time, Bratislav Gašić, publicly states that the suspects have confessed and described the crime in detail. Then something extraordinary happens. When the suspects appear before prosecutors for their formal hearings, their stories begin to change. Jankovic, who had initially confessed, suddenly refuses to speak. He invokes his right to remain silent. Dragicevic continues to maintain his confession, but cracks are starting to show in what seemed like a solid case. If you're finding this case as compelling as I am, and you want to stay updated on true crime stories that challenge everything we think we know about justice, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next in Danka's case will shock you even more than what you've heard so far. As the investigation continues, both suspects request to be questioned again. This time, both men completely recant their confessions. They now claim they were indeed in the area that day, driving their company vehicle along the same street where Danka disappeared. But they insist they never saw the child, let alone harmed her. The case that seemed solved suddenly becomes a mystery again. Meanwhile, investigators are working frantically to find physical evidence that will support the confessions. They examine the company vehicle that the suspects were driving. They collect hundreds of DNA samples. They use GPS technology to track the vehicle's movements on the day Danka disappeared. But what they find, or rather what they don't find, changes everything. The DNA results come back, and they reveal something that contradicts the entire prosecution theory. There are indeed DNA traces found in the vehicle, but none of them belong to Danka Ilić. Think about that for a moment. Two men confess to putting a bleeding, injured child in their car trunk, yet forensic science finds no trace of her presence in that vehicle. But the investigation takes an even darker turn when authorities arrest additional suspects. Radoslav Dragijević, the 73-year-old father of suspect Dejan Dragijević, is taken into custody. Also arrested is Dejan's 40-year-old brother, whose name is also Dejan Dragijević. They are suspected of helping to move Danka's body from the original location to somewhere else, which would explain why extensive searches of the landfill have yielded nothing. This is where the case transforms from a tragic child murder into something that exposes the dark heart of institutional corruption. On April 7, 2024, just 3 days after his arrest, the 40-year-old Dejan Dragijević dies in police custody at the Bor Police Department. The official explanation from the Ministry of Internal Affairs is clinical and brief. They claim he became ill, that police officers and doctors from the local health center attempted resuscitation, but that he died of natural causes. Case closed, move along, nothing to see here. But autopsy results tell a very different story. The Institute of Forensic Medicine in Belgrade conducts a thorough examination and reaches a conclusion that sends shockwaves through the country. This was not a natural death. Dejan Dragijević died a violent death. The evidence suggests he was beaten so severely that he succumbed to his injuries. Let that sink in. A man dies from injuries sustained while in police custody, and authorities initially claim it was natural causes. This revelation transforms the Danka Ilić case from a child murder investigation into a scandal that reaches the highest levels of Serbian law enforcement. The Department of Internal Control launches its own investigation into this death. On May 1, 2024, they issue their findings and recommendations. 3 police officers face disciplinary measures and suspension. But for many observers, this feels like too little, too late. A man is dead, and the circumstances surrounding his death raise serious questions about police conduct in this case. As months pass, the case against the original suspects becomes increasingly problematic. Legal experts begin to express serious doubts about the prosecution's ability to secure convictions without Danka's body and without reliable physical evidence. Lawyer Marko Pantic publicly states that the case is on glass legs and warns that without more substantial evidence, the prosecution may struggle to prove their case in court. The case continues to generate controversy throughout 2024. In September, the Higher Public Prosecutor's Office in Zaječar files formal charges against Dragijević and Janković, requesting life imprisonment for both men. They also charge the elder Radoslav Dragijević with lesser crimes related to concealing evidence and failing to report the murder. But even this step forward faces obstacles. In December 2024, the Chamber of the Appellate Court in Niš revokes the decision confirming the indictment and sends it back to the lower court. The legal proceedings have become a complicated back and forth between different levels of the judicial system. As we move into 2025, the case takes yet another turn. In April, the appellate court orders that the investigation be supplemented with additional evidence. They specifically request a reconstruction of the events under the same meteorological conditions and at the same time of day as the original incident. They also order that Danka's mother be re-examined as a witness. This reconstruction finally takes place in June 2025, more than 14 months after Danka's disappearance. Investigators return to Bansko Polje to recreate the events of that fateful day, hoping that new details will emerge that might finally provide the breakthrough this case desperately needs. But here's what makes this case truly extraordinary and why it continues to captivate public attention. We're not just dealing with a child murder case, we're looking at a complete breakdown of institutional trust. The changing confessions, the lack of physical evidence, the death in police custody, the complicated legal proceedings. All of these elements combine to create a case that raises fundamental questions about justice and accountability. The impact extends far beyond the courtroom. The director of Vodovod in Bor, the company where the suspects worked, resigned for moral reasons. This rarely happens in Serbian corporate culture, but the magnitude of this case demanded unprecedented responses. The case has also highlighted the importance of the Find Me system, which was activated for the first time during Danka's disappearance. This emergency alert platform proved its value in mobilizing public support and international cooperation, even though it ultimately couldn't prevent the tragic outcome. As we approach the 2-year anniversary of Danka's disappearance, her case remains one of the most controversial and heartbreaking in recent Serbian history. The legal proceedings continue, with courts still grappling with the fundamental question of how to prosecute a murder case, when the victim's body has never been found and the physical evidence contradicts the alleged confessions. For Danka's family, the lack of closure adds an additional layer of torment to their grief. Without her body, they cannot properly lay her to rest. Without definitive answers, they cannot find peace. And without justice, they cannot move forward. The case has also sparked broader conversations about police accountability, the reliability of confessions, and the importance of physical evidence in criminal prosecutions. Legal experts continue to debate whether this case can result in convictions and what precedent it might set for future cases with similar challenges. If this case has moved you as much as it has moved me, and if you believe that stories like Danka's deserve to be told with the respect and attention they merit, please take a moment to like this video and share it with others. Because the more people who know about cases like this, the more pressure there is on institutions to provide real answers and real justice. The truth about what happened to Danka Ilić on that March afternoon in 2024 may never be fully known. But her story serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of protecting our most vulnerable citizens and holding those in positions of authority accountable for their actions. As this case continues to work its way through the Serbian legal system, one thing remains certain. Danka Ilić's disappearance has exposed cracks in the foundation of institutional trust that will take years to repair. Her legacy may ultimately be not just the pursuit of justice for her own case, but the broader reforms that her story has inspired in Serbian law enforcement and judicial procedures. The search for truth in the Danka Ilić case continues, and until that truth is found, her story will remain a haunting reminder of a system that failed when it mattered most.